One.
When I was 15 years old, I went on a vacation to a city in Hawaii with my family. I ended up with an afternoon to myself, and I was walking past a porn shop. I'd never seen anything like that, so I got up my guts and I walked in like I belonged there. No one stopped me, so I went into a video preview booth to see what they were. I closed and locked the door behind me. Basically, it's a tiny booth with a little TV, and you can watch porn in there. It was disgusting as soon as I realized there was a box of Kleenex and a really funky smell. At that point, I was ready to go, but my 15-year-old hormones got the best of me, and I put $1 in to at least see something before making my escape. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. I'm freaking out because I think they've realized that I'm not old enough to be in there, so I don't say anything at all. Knock, knock, knock. I still don't say anything. Knock, knock. Hey, you in there? A soft voice coming from the other side of the door says. I didn't know what to say, so I made a real deep voice and said, "Occupied!" It's quiet for a minute, then knock, knock, knock. Hey, what are you doing in there? I didn't know what to do. I said I was watching a movie. This guy, in his soft voice, says, "Are you doing what everyone else does in there?" This was freaking me out big time, so I said, "Leave me alone! I'm just watching a movie!" Suddenly, 4 quarters fly under the door into my booth. Here, now you can watch some more movies. I didn't say anything. I was too scared to leave the booth because I had no idea if this guy was right outside or what. A few minutes later, about 12 more quarters fly under the door of the booth, and the soft guy says, "I got you some more movies, friend. You want some company?" Now I'm completely scared, and I kicked all the quarters back out of the booth and I said, "I'm fine. I don't need your money. Go away." I sat in there for about 10 minutes, and finally, hoping he was gone, I made a break for it. I shoved the door open really fast and basically ran out of there. A short, muscular man was between me and the exit, and he was staring at me, and he was clearly the dude who had been at my door. He was greasy, ripped, and wearing a tank top. I just remember he was all muscles, like some super douche you'd see on Jersey Shore. I dodged around him, and I go outside on the sidewalk. I'm a thin guy, and at 15 I was positively scrawny, so there wasn't much I could have physically done against this guy, so getting the hell out was my top priority. I thought I'd be safe out there, but I wasn't. I started walking, and this guy starts following me. I kept looking back, and he was always about 30 feet back. This went on for a couple of blocks. I was waiting at a crosswalk with tourists all over the place, and this guy was coming right for me. As soon as the sign switched to "Don't Walk," I sprinted out into the intersection as horns honked, and ran into a shopping mall. I looked back, and this guy had done the same thing and was now full sprinting after me. I ran into the mall, hoping for police or security or something, but I couldn't see anyone helpful. I lunged around a corner and into a Walden's bookstore and practically dove behind a rack of books. I crouched, shaking and watching through the bookstand, and this guy sprinted right past the storefront. As soon as he was around the next corner, I took off back the way I came, and ran all the way back to the hotel. I think I came pretty close to getting raped by some freaky little muscle dude in Hawaii, and this is the first time I've ever said anything about it.
2.
When I was 16 years old, I had a stalker. Maybe for a year or so. I still don't even know his name or how he knew me because we didn't even go to the same school. Nonetheless, I remember that he had messengers that would deliver letters and gifts to me. He had some sick idea that I was his girl, and he kept turning up everywhere I went. Luckily, I had the sense to not go anywhere alone. Come Valentine's Day of that year, he even showed up at my house. I didn't live in the same town where I went to school. I lived at least 30 miles away in the woods. Almost no one knew where I lived, and I don't even know how he found out. Anyway, he showed up, and I did go to the door to talk to him because my entire family was there, and I figured if I stayed where they could see me, I'd be fine. He kept asking to talk to me in private and motioning towards an area around the corner and towards where he had a car full of people waiting. It was very creepy, and I refused. He was there for like 20 minutes asking over and over again for me to go somewhere private, and I never did. Eventually, my boyfriend and all of the male members of my family came outside to smoke and intimidate him, and he just left. These kind of things went on for a long time, but I dated jocks in high school, and they may suck a lot of the time, but they will beat a stalker and make him stop coming around. They're really good at that.
3.
When I was 9 years old, I was at a Walmart, and they had a really weird person working for them. Or at least, he seemed like he had something wrong. He kept following me around and asking me if he could touch my muscles. I kept walking away from him, and he would follow me around the store. Finally, I found my mom, and we left. And when I told her the story, we got home, and she called Walmart to complain, and Walmart informed her that no such employee worked there. That was so creepy.
4.
This situation unnerved me for a long period of time, causing me years of panic attacks and a fear of traveling alone. I was in New York City on a train, heading from Brooklyn to the city, a stop or two before the bridge, in the middle of the day, with enough of a packed car to occupy all the seats with some people standing. I was sitting down when this huge man walked by and stopped right in front of me. He didn't look homeless, just some angry dude that must have been doped out of his mind on crack, cocaine, or some combination of both. He was dressed in clean street clothes, but he had an open bottle of beer in one hand and a lit cigarette in the other. Never since then have I ever seen anyone that angry, and a part of me really believed this man was going to kill someone. He happened to pick me. I was 16 years old, and not dressed in any provocative way, but this guy just stopped right in front of me and proceeded to spew the most racial, sexist insults. I tried not to let it affect me, but after having this guy inches away from my face, screaming how all the white women are whores and they should just be put underground for what seemed like an eternity, I let it eat me up inside. Normally, I would react and say something, but that day I stood quiet, only whispering a "please leave me alone." I even carried a pocket knife on me, but some part of me just felt that this guy was going to murder me right then and there if I even moved the wrong way. In the end, he got off the train first, but not before throwing his lit cigarette at me and splashing the beer on the floor so it would hit me. The thing that bothered me the most is that not a single person did anything. Not one. Most people looked away, except one guy who, when asked by the man if he agreed that cunts like me should get raped and murdered, the guy nodded yes. Yes. I lost my faith in humanity in a big way that day. After the menacing man left, a girl sat next to me to ask if I was okay. I told her that it was no big deal being in New York and all, but 2 minutes later I stepped off of the train and I couldn't stop shaking and crying for half an hour. It affected me for years to come, and I think because I was very young and in a bad place as it was.
Five.
When I was 14, myself and my 2 friends, Aaron and Ben, were heading over to Aaron's house from my house. Aaron lived in a very lousy neighborhood, and I was very skeptical about going through there at night. If my parents were home, they would have raged at me for even thinking about going through his neighborhood on foot at night. So anyway, we're about 15 minutes away from his house, and we turn a corner and see this guy walking towards us. Tall, skinny, with a hoodie on, and he seems to be in a rush. Ben makes the dumbass mistake of making eye contact with him as he passes. A couple of seconds later, he tells us that the guy's eyes looked all fucked up and that his pupils were huge. We continue walking, and as we turn the corner, I look back to see the dude, and he has turned around and was following about 30 meters behind us. I tell Aaron and Ben that he is behind us, and we were all a little paranoid. He continues following us for about another 5 minutes, and eventually I say, "Listen, fuck this, let's just run for a few blocks and lose him." Just as I suggested this, I turn and look at him. The first thing I see is a glimpse of him running, eyes locked onto Ben, who had made eye contact with him earlier. Then, I kid you not, the street light went out. We all simultaneously legged it up the street, almost getting hit by a car pulling into a driveway. Aaron starts yelling at the car, saying that someone's chasing us and that we need help. A man steps out of the car, and he's like 7 feet tall, and he looks like he could bench a house. All I could think of was, thank God. The dude got out of the car, pointed, and asked if that was the dude that was following us. At this point, the creep had stopped running and was boxing with a telephone pole about 20 meters away, hands dripping in blood, which is the creepiest thing I've ever seen a person do. We nodded our heads furiously, and the guy said, "Don't worry, I've got this," and told us to go home. I fucking loved this guy. We bolted home and came back to thank the guy about a week later. We found out that the dude that was following us had been arrested for possession of crack. Thank you so much for watching and supporting the show. If you have a story to share, send us an email, like us on Facebook, share, like, and subscribe.